Hello, and welcome to my show, The Thriving Woman. I am your host, Carmel Austin.
I can't believe I'm counting down the minutes till it's Tuesday. Another day back on.
I will be sharing keys to help you form healthy hearts and boundaries. I'll see you in the show.
My feet, I'm fighting every minute till the weekend.
Hello, this is Carmel Austin here. Welcome to another episode of The Thriving Woman. Today, I'm so excited that Tim, one of our authors in our book, The Artist's Haven, is here with me. Tim, welcome to my show.
Oh, thank you very much, Carmel. What an honor and a privilege it is to be part of your show. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. You know, Tim and I, we met through another friend, I think, on Facebook who's in the book. Angie, I believe. I could be wrong. Tim will correct me with that. But you know, what I love about the internet and about, you know, the world and the things that are happening in this world with technology and knowledge is that we know that, you know, this is all planned, that there's this God who loves us and that he has this path for us that we go down. And we're so blessed that as we take up those things and we take up the call that he has on our lives and the things that he has for us, we can work together. So Tim, yes, please share with my audience how we did meet, because I think it was Angie, but I could be wrong.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. It was Angela Gunther. She is on my Facebook friends. And one day, this was last fall, this was November, I think, and she made this lovely announcement that she had this book that she was participating in, and one of her paintings had been chosen for the cover. But the best part of it was when she shared how she did not have the funds, and then God made a way for her to have funds so she could participate. And that spoke to me because I was, first of all, I was desirous of wanting to be in a book also, but I didn't know how it was all going to come together. And so when she started sharing about this, the next thing that happened for me was a desire to call you, Carmel, and talk with you about the possibility. So one of the questions I had was, hey, can guys participate in something like this also? Is it just for the ladies? And you gave a very beautiful answer and welcomed me. And it was good to have that interview, but I still didn't really have the funds. But God had a better plan because right after Christmas, there was an opportunity that opened up for me to begin teaching at a resort here in Arizona. It's a 55 plus, the older folks who come, and I could go ahead and teach them watercolors. And at the end of the week, when I received my first check, I had this very clear sense from God that, Tim, you could collect this money and you could use it towards the book. And sure enough, that was exciting. So I once again got in touch with you, Carmel, and said, Carmel, I'm all in because I have the funds. So this is how the whole story began. And thanks to Angie Gunderson and her testimony that it kind of was infectious and got passed on to me. So that's the story there.
And it's so true, isn't it, Tim? I know when I interviewed you and your beautiful wife last year, you know, we were looking at the book coming out a little bit earlier as well, but I had some family things happen. My my father
Sure.
and my sister
Mm,
passed away, and I had to put this show into a sabbatical as well,
yeah.
and be
Yeah.
able to process my grief and my pain. And when you contacted me in January, I was so excited, that I'd seen that you started doing watercolor, and I know your heart was that you wanted to be part of it, because when we did the interview, I felt so blessed, and I
Mm,
felt so comfortable with you and your beautiful wife. And
yeah.
back then it was just early days. Angie had I'd invited her onto my show, and she's not confident speaking really good English because of her German, but her artwork is so beautiful, and she'd been waiting, to share.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then, I commissioned her to paint the cover, and how blessed are we that we have Angie's artwork on our
Oh, yeah.
cover. And
Lovely
it's
cover.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. It just matches the artist haven and what
Yes.
it's
Yes.
about so well, that we're unique and we rest in God's goodness, and all the things that go with that. And yeah, I was so excited, I was saying, oh, we've got a lovely, mail, and hopefully we'll have some more. And with my next book, Moving from Brokenness to Freedom, there's some males who are interested in
Oh,
sharing
wonderful.
their story in that book.
Wonderful.
And I think,
Mm,
what I'm learning and have learnt along the path of this, Tim, is that, it's these books are unique. Nobody ever really talks about our creativity and how they're God given gifts, and
yes.
things that, as we express that we really learn that we can rest in who we are and our uniqueness.
Sure.
Tim, for me, I struggled with that for years, and I had a
Mm,
reoccurring a dream about I'd lost my wallet and lost my key card and lost things in there. And I actually had somebody interpret that dream, and they said, that's your identity.
mm,
You really need to know your identity and who you are, and God's really speaking to you. And when you have a repeated dream, He's really speaking to you about that. So for me, the last few years, I've really had to accept my call, my dream, who I am. That, I've grown up with Italian Lebanese heritage in Australia,
sure.
and
Hmm.
we've lived a lot of that life here. But I'm loud. I'm a singer, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I'm an
Wonderful.
artisan, a cook, like
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
try everything with my hands, and I love to praise the Lord. And I have my mum's church voice, and just even with this show, with my first book, I got that opportunity to start doing this, and my husband Wayne just supports me so much. And that's what
Wonderful.
I love about what you do, Tim. I've seen such a unity with you and your beautiful wife, Martha.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
And I've seen that, she's so supportive of what you're doing and the things that you do. And I know that you have a past as well of being ministers together as well too. So Tim, share with my audience a little bit about how you got into doing watercolor and the
Sure.
things that you love about that and the journey that you are going on with that.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to share with you. I came to the United States in 1985, and part of the journey was I had come here to pursue studies in theological education. And so while I was pursuing these studies, I met Martha. Martha is Caucasian, and we got married. We fell in love and we got married. And then we went on our journey of faith, and we were involved in some missions work. And then God opened the door for me to come back and be a pastor of a church for 14 years. And that was a very encouraging and a good season of ministry. Uh, there were actually three churches that I was working in, but the last one was where I was there the longest. And then after that, um, the Lord called me out to become a Christian life coach and work both with pastors and artists. And so part of this journey was to listen carefully to what the pastor or the artist is talking about, because God is already at work in their lives, and to be able to be in tune with, wonder what God is doing in their present life. And then the second part of it was more to do with listening to what God is giving them as instructions for the next thing that they have in front of them. And my job was then to encourage them and affirm them in who God has called them to be, and to encourage them to step out and do what God's calling them to do. And saw some beautiful results for both the pastors and the artists. And so that's the kind of work that I am currently involved in. But as an artist, part of what happened was that I knew that God had blessed me with the gift, a spiritual gift of encouragement. And I saw positive things happening in people's lives. But art was also a spiritual gift, but I had not put my finger on it. In some ways, it was like an afterthought of realizing, this watercolors that I do actually has a peace-giving quality to it, not only for myself, but for others as well. And so I started exploring that more and more. And currently, on one hand, I'm developing my skills. And so currently I'm getting better and better with portraiture work. But at the same time, there is a deep desire to meet with other artists. And so I was able to design a workshop called Next Step Workshop. And so the point is to invite the artists and to help them move just to the next step. It doesn't have to be lofty goals. It's just what's the next thing that you would like to see happen for you. And then to be able to listen to them, and in our conversations and with guidance, move them to the next level. And so I found that to be very, very rewarding. And alongside the workshops, the opportunity to be involved in competitions and to be able to do quality work so that my work can sell in galleries here. Those are some of the beautiful things that God has started doing and giving favor, and just having opportunities to interact with both the Christian community as well as the larger community here in Tucson, and be able to encourage artists to move along. Those are sort of like the summary of the kind of things that are going on in my life.
Yes, Tim, when I connected with you last year, I, introduced you on Facebook, and I was so excited, that's right. It was Angie who, you connected with, and isn't it lovely that you can share that same faith journey that she shared, that, didn't have the money and God provided, and, this has been a step of faith for me too, Tim. I just had this dream in my heart to share and do books, and how it started actually is a friend of mine who has an art shop, and she said, how did you get to #1 international best-selling author so quickly with my book Just Say No? I said, I've been working hard at it. And she said, I do a writing group here and we got artists and we'd like to do a book. And I went, yeah, that'd be fun. That's more the creative side of me, because in my other book, it was, pretty hard stuff I shared about, a lot of seasonal things and things that I'd gone through. And so that's what started it, and I started, looking for friendships with people on the net and seeing whether I connected with people and seeing, whether there was that putting it out there, putting that fleece out, And, and it's just so amazing as I listen to each of my artists and my authors in the book and their story as we go along. And, and hear how ordained this book is and how much of it, has been planned by God. And, I am so thrilled that he's given me this leadership role with it. And I feel so honored that each person who's in the book, we're friends now, and we're all becoming friends, and we're all artists sharing our journey. We're all creatives. And I think, in the Christian community, but just people in the wider community need to know that they're unique and that art and singing and all the different things that go under, the creative banner, that, we're unique and that's how God has made us to be. And
Amen.
it's
Amen.
okay to
Yeah.
pursue those things. You
Yes.
know, folks, Tim introduced me to one of his friends, Terry, who is very unique. He does quilts and
Yes.
lots of things. And Terry shared with me that he's now running the church that Tim used to run, and that's how they connected.
Yes.
So, it's like, God just connects us all together.
He does. He
And
does.
I get so excited when I hear, and then to actually have Tim now submit his story and to have it in our book. Tim, would you like to share with my audience a little bit about your story and what you've written in our book?
Sure. Sure. I would love to. Um, I call this story "Walking a Step Behind Jesus." And the reason I talk about it in that particular way is because at the very beginning in my journey, I first started learning how to hear what God is saying to us. And that took several years of just learning as I was going along, studying and working in the church, as to this reality that God is real, God speaks to us, and there are different ways in which God, He's very persistent, and He loves to make sure that we get it, that God is saying something to us. So then after that season, there came a point where God was saying, "Now, Tim, I don't want you just to hear me. I want you to hear me and obey me." So there was that next piece of saying, "Yes, God, I enjoy that you are so faithful in speaking to us, but it also is on us to step out and obey you and follow you." And so that journey was beginning to become very interesting. There were adventures involved. There were some daring things that he wanted me to do because I tend to be a little quiet and more of an introvert. And then God started teaching me as we were starting to do the coaching work, that not only are you to listen to me and obey me, but I want you to also trust me. And
Mm,
part of the trusting was trusting Him with the person that I am coaching and the
mm,
person I'm counseling.
mm.
Because God is already working in their lives.
Yeah.
And my job is to listen to what God is doing in their lives.
Mm,
And so listening to both the person and listening to what God is doing in their lives, and then trusting that what God wants me to do in affirming this brother or this sister
mm,
is helping them to move forward in their journey. And so it was very important to learn to take my back seat, take that place of listening and walking with the Lord one step behind Him. And it became an art. It's a form of special listening where we begin to listen to God and with the intention of trusting Him in what we are going to say in the lives of these individuals that God has blessed us with. It's a responsible place to
mm,
not say something casually, but rather measure it, weigh it, and have the confidence that this is something that God is saying to us to encourage this brother or this sister. And I found that to be so rewarding because it is very affirming, it's moving forward, and people are beginning to flourish and grow. I saw that happening with the artists too, where in the workshops, I have the opportunity to use my coaching skills to listen, to encourage, to help them move forward. And God begins to interact with them and encourage them and build them up too. So it's a good teamwork, and that's at the heart of my chapter.
Thank you, Tim. It's so true, isn't it? Because I'm a wholeness coach, and before I got that title, 30 years plus. I had women come into my home and I went into their homes and I ministered to them at, ladies groups and shared with them and walked with them through different parts, of my businesses and different things
Sure.
that I've done. And it's true, people don't really want to know your opinion. They want to know what their future's going to hold and what God's saying about them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having that God ear, that
Yeah.
tuning into that, and knowing that when you speak to someone, you are speaking life into them and you're not coming from
Yeah.
your own experiences. You might
Yes.
share from your own experiences, but for me, particularly, if I'm sitting with someone and I'm having a coffee and I just feel God starts to give me a picture or share something and then I start to speak, you can see people start crying or they
Yes. Yes.
react to it and they just want to know that they're unique and they're special and they're loved and
Yes.
this is what this book's about. It's about helping people that knowing that we are unique, we're created
Hmm.
uniquely and that we can come into that haven and know that as artists and we can create in so many different ways and know
Yeah.
that God loves us and that He actually has given us all these gifts, but we
Yes.
have to unpack them and we have to be faithful
Yes.
and step out in faith and believe that what we're doing is worthwhile, and that we're building, riches for heaven and it's not
So,
necessarily just the earthly things. And yes, I know for myself, I've had to trust the Lord with finances along the way
sure.
as well, and my
Sure.
husband has faithfully worked and supported me in all of my ideas. Being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, I'm always coming up with ideas, and we're working on a magazine now, Tim. So, I
Oh.
really felt God spoke to me about that last year and nobody else was doing it. So now, I'm like, well, why not do my own?
Yeah.
Um,
Carmel, I must mention that alongside our podcasts, it is so wonderful to have a book or a magazine because having something in front of me that I can read helps me then to go back and if I have to dig a little deeper or if I have to recall something, I love podcasts, but at the same time, it is still really, really good to have some printed material in front of me
yes,
that I can go back to. So I
yes,
just find that to be a very useful, healthy combination of uh,
yes.
literature and matter in front of us. So I just wanted to mention that to
Oh,
you.
absolutely.
That
And
it's a
when
great way
I,
to go.
yeah, this is what it's about. We're talking about our book that's coming out, our book that's out. We've been advertising it, publishing it, publicizing it, and we're excited. But it's so true. Only this week, Tim, I was reading the lead author's chapter in my book, Just Say No, and it was encouraging me to stand and know that what I'm doing, you're going to have some opposition, but
Yeah,
keep on
yeah,
going. And I know when I wrote my chapter in my book, to sit there and read what I'd written, and I'm like, oh, that's speaking to me. And
yeah.
and then having to, because my other book was about healthy relationships and boundaries, and then
Yes,
actually having to put those into place because it
yes,
was a written
yes.
word and it was in front of you and you had to, you get
Very
challenged
good. It is
on
so
that,
good. You're
you
right.
get
You're right.
challenged on that. And I'm sure you as a minister, you've written a lot of things, but Tim, is this your first book that you will be published in, or is this something that
Yes,
you've
this
done other
will.
things?
Yeah, well, there have been other manuscripts that I have. In fact, I was very happy to see that you have a publishing company in the works, and so I would love to come back to you and talk with you further about some of the manuscripts I have. But yes, this is my first piece that's being published. But yeah, there have been lots and lots of writing that has already been done. Some was part of the education, and some was part of it being as a minister, but never really came to that place of publication. So So yeah, this is my very first.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
For decades, I had in my heart to write and have it published. And it was in 2019 where actually Susan, my friend, who's the artist, and she's writing her chapter in
Oh, very
as
good.
well. And she has Samantha, who's one of her students, write her story as well in our book. And God really clearly spoke to me at the end of 2019. He said, Carmel, you need to start writing again. And I hadn't published anything, but I started to, because I've written a child's book. And I started to write and put together all the things that I want to do, because I want to do a heritage book. I want to do it with some cooking things in it.
Very nice.
There's so much that I feel's in my heart to publish, So when I got given the opportunity with my first book, Just Say No, I just felt God say to me, you need to do this. And I went, okay. Wow. So at the 11th hour, I was the last person who came into the book. I spoke half the chapter into my phone and I wrote it. I had a few friends, particularly Susan, read over it. She said, oh, that's so good, Carmel. It was like that. It was in there, And Megan, who I did the book with, she just spoke over me and said, God's going to give back to you, Carmel, 1,000-fold what you're doing. And here we are, just over 12 months later. And, my third book is coming out.
Look at that.
Because I was in Dear Superwoman, which came out in March.
Yes,
I have plans. Yes. I've already got people who want to come into the next book, the sequel, Moving from Brokenness to Freedom. And then we're doing a local artist book as well with Susan and people in my region. And like you said, everybody's got all these things. When I was talking about Carmel Austin Publishing, which you mentioned that comes under the banner of Carmel's Garden. So it's, I actually designed that logo 10 years ago. Oh, you did a good job. 10 years ago, I designed CA when I was at TAFE doing website designs.
Oh, look at
And God just said to me, find that, use that, that's your logo for here. And I did like this vision casting workshop in January with one of my lovely coaches and mentor here in Australia. And she was talking about going forward 10 years. And God said to me, look back 10 years, Carmel, and look at where I have been taking you. And, Tim, I went to a Tony Robbins conference in Sydney with my girlfriend, and then we went to a writing conference with this gentleman. And when we were there, look, honestly, most of it went over my head. I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going, but I knew back then, which I realized God showed me that this year, I wanted to interview people and have their stories in my books.
Wow.
So, look at that.
Beautiful.
It's all coming to pass.
How it unfolds,
all those dreams and how they've been unfolding. And yes, I want to look forward 10 years, but God showed me He's been doing that for me since I actually went to Israel in 2010. And, there's one of my beautiful prayer shawls behind me. And on my carmelsgarden.com.au site, I still have prayer shawls. I supported orphans and widows, my husband and I. We sent money and sold products for years, and I took nothing from that. And then God sort of pivoted me into self-care with my essential oils, and that's another whole subject that I want to write about, talk about in my my show. And so there's so many things that 10 years or more that, God is now bringing them to birth in my life. And I feel so blessed that, Tim, you came alongside of me and you've been such a stable encouragement. And I love your watercolour. I love, that, God has joined us together as friends, as co-authors, as co-artists, and that there's so much more that we have to do in this life. So much more. So, Tim, would you like to share with my audience about your website and where they can connect with you, please?
Sure. Thank you very much. Yes, my website is Tim Bhajjan Art, BHAJJANART.com, timbhajjanart.com. And when people sign up, they will, of course, be receiving more updates on my next step workshops and any other new things that are going to be happening in the near future. And my artwork is right there, and you can buy right off my website. And hopefully, when the book is being put forward, I'll be putting my book right
Yes.
there on the Artist Haven. And so the encouragement is for everybody to check it out on the website, timbhajjanart.com.
That's right, folks. Tim will have the book for sale. You can get autographed copies from him and be able to buy one for yourself. We're so excited, that, we're going towards number one international best-selling
Yes.
authors as well for all of my authors. We're working on that. We've been believing for that, because I have that title 2 times now, but I want that for my artists, and that's what
Oh,
my
wonderful.
show's about. My
Yeah.
show's about, lifting everybody up onto that platform that I've been given by God, and knowing that we can all stand shoulder to shoulder, even though, half of my artists are from around the world. I do have 3 locals who are part of
Ah.
it, and we have 5 Australians and 1 amazing New Zealander, Sarah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And, even my VA, Donna, who lives in the Philippines, she's sharing her story. So, God has just put this whole book together. And I've just been, I had one lady say to me when I invited her into my book and we were chatting, and she said, "Oh, I'm busy doing my things, but you're just Superwoman." I said, "Oh, that's my book that's coming out in March."
Good job, good
So,
job.
I think we just need to encourage people that we stay in our own lane. We stay, and it's okay to go after those gifts that we've been born with because we're so unique. It's okay that when we feel, for me, when I'm feeling distressed, I go and I dig in the garden and I create in there, or I clean, or I go create something. I'll do a cooking, or I'm always working on a project at the moment. I've got some beautiful material and I want to make my granddaughter a quilt. I love doing heirloom
Oh, wonderful.
quilts for my family, and I love my artwork. So I like to just pick up whatever medium, but I do find, you've got to be in that mood. Do you find that, Tim? Do you find that there's moods that come and go, and
Oh,
sometimes
yes.
you're right into it, and other times,
Oh, yeah.
you think, "Oh Lord, you got to strengthen me here," particularly when you're doing your classes. But from what you shared, Tim, your classes sound like they really come together with your coaching and with your encouragement.
Yes, it is. You're right. Yeah. It's a combination of the two things. And I love it because it's all familiar. This is something that is what God has made me to do. And so it becomes easy and it's effective, and people are benefactors of it. They leave having received benefit from that whole experience. So it's a very positive win-win situation there.
Yeah, Tim, I think you should start some classes online because, this is going around the world. So there could be
Wonderful.
some wonderful opportunities where you could be doing some classes with people in their own homes and you're in your home. You just never know, do you, Tim,
You never know.
what opportunities in the world that we live in that comes up to us.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Tim, just as we're closing, I would like you to just share something to encourage my audience as an artist, as somebody who knows that, they're loved and cherished by a God who created them. And just as you're our male in our group as well, and just something that is going to bless everybody and uplift them.
Sure. Thank you very, very much. There are two things that I would like to briefly mention. One is that we are called by God to actually move forward. So learning things and then sitting on it doesn't do it. We have to learn, and then after what has been taught to us, we need to move forward and apply it and practice it. So that is one of the things that I would encourage everyone to take on seriously. And the second thing is that it is important to develop our skills. It's No one is looking for a mediocre artist. They are looking for a well developed artist so that our work out there is matching that which others bring to the marketplace. And so it is an important piece to not only be able to have the faith that, yes, God is calling us to do something, but also have the skills to provide some good material, good artwork that others would be very proud to own and to invest in, and so on. So I would encourage us to become serious about what God has called us to do, and also do a good job in making it and in providing it to the world around us.
Oh, thank you, Tim. That is so true. That is so true. And thank you. It's just been an absolute pleasure interviewing you, sharing a little bit more about your story, and really getting to know you as well. And, your dreams, your goals, the things that you're doing. And I
Thank
love,
you, Carla.
I really love, I've been watching your portrait work being developed on Facebook, and I can really see that you're stepping into that, and folks, in our book there's this amazing beautiful painting that has done, and each author follows each other, and the painting that we've chosen to
Yep.
go into after Tim's manuscript just goes perfectly into the next author. So, I'm just so thrilled, that we've been able to connect again today, and all the wonderful things with our
Yeah.
book, having it for sale where people can read it, asking people to support us, to go to number one as well. So, Tim, thank you so much. It's just
Oh,
been
thank you,
such a
Carla.
blessing
Yes, thank
to
you.
chat with you today. And you know what, folks? I'll see you in another episode of The Thriving Woman. God bless and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye bye.